Record. Yes, so welcome everyone, also people that are watching this stream afterwards. This is the third warming up session for the Build Weekend. The Build Weekend takes place in 1.5 weeks, July 15th till July 17th, which we are excited to host again after the first time a couple of months ago. This is the third session to warm up for the Build Weekend. Today we are excited to have Lee, one of the creators and residents of 100 Days of No Code in here. And Lee is very experienced with building with short build sprints, half-day builds. He even works in sprints at his new job nowadays with Bubble. So yeah, he has a lot of experience, can share a lot of insights with us about building in short cycles. So we are excited to learn more from your experience, Lee. So welcome, and we're curious about your experiences.
Oh yeah, I'm looking forward to. Like you said, I really love building in sprints. I'm excited to share my excitement for sprints and why I love them, and I hope I can, if you don't love them already, or if you haven't done them already, I hope I can inspire you with your own sprints. Is the connection all right?
Yeah, I can hear you well. Yeah, sure.
Okay. Okay, it's just still there for a minute. So yeah, I hope what I share can help inspire everyone in the upcoming Build Weekend. I'm going to share my screen if that's okay.
Yeah, I'm going to check if you are a co-host already. Yes.
Is that all right? Can you see that?
Yeah, I can see it well. Can the rest also see it? Let me check. Guys, I see you. Yeah, can you see the screen?
Yes, that's visible. Yeah.
Yes. Great.
Just present this. So yeah, I want to share 5 things with you that you can do to prepare for your Build Weekend, to get ahead of building. And before I do that, as I said, I just want to share that I love build days. I love sprints. I just love what they enable you to do. I love the value that you get from them, and I love the fact that you get to build something that you might never get round to building if you didn't do it in a kind of a challenge or a sprint. The pressure of a challenge or a sprint gets you to build that idea that you've probably been sitting on or been thinking about. So as Harold said, I'm a Bubble developer, and I would say the fact that I'm now a Bubble developer has led on from the fact that I started building in sprints. And just to give you a bit of background, how did I get into building in sprints? When did I start building in sprints, and why do I love them? Well, for me, it started at the start of the global pandemic. I was freelancing online. I'd been freelancing for 10 years, and I just saw friends, family, people online from all different walks, all different backgrounds, being very creative in what was, a dark time for us all. And, and we know things like 100 Days of No Code kind of came out of the pandemic, especially for what Max did during that time. And I was just seeing everybody being creative and doing different things and being very experimental. And it made me think, well, what am I going to launch? What am I going to build? And I had all these different ideas. I had many unfinished projects. I'd tried different side hustles. I'd tried to create a camper van conversion chatbot. I'd created some Canva templates. I'd tried all these different things. I made these icon assets, which I was trying to sell online, and I was thinking, what am I going to do with all these ideas? I want to use this time effectively, alongside continuing to freelance. And I just felt this sense of frustration because I couldn't decide which idea to run with, which idea to launch. And so about the beginning of April into the pandemic, I decided to set myself a challenge of launching one idea a day. And basically, the challenge I gave myself was I had to pick one of my ideas or have a new idea that day, and I had to launch an MVP for that idea that day. And as I said, I was still working, so I had limited time. I maybe only had 2 or 3 hours, but I literally had to pick an idea, and I would tweet it on Twitter. I didn't have much. I probably had, a few followers, but I didn't have much of interaction on Twitter back then. But regardless, I would just pick an idea, put it on Twitter, say what I was going to build, and by the end of the day, I would build either a landing page. Sometimes it might be a Gumroad page, a payment page. Sometimes it might be an animation of the idea, just to build the idea and put it out in some kind of form to then get some kind of interaction or feedback from other people. And sometimes I might get 1 or 2 likes, sometimes nothing, sometimes crickets, but it didn't matter. Every day I would go on to the next build. And so I don't know if this is going to play. Oh, so this is some of the tweets that I did. So you can see one of the I don't know if you can see that one of the ideas I had was animated logo template for people on YouTube. So the idea being that people could edit the template and use it on their own YouTube channel. The next day I had a set of resources on how to make your own animations, which I put together. And I put it behind a buy me a coffee page. People could pay me a few dollars if they wanted to download that kit. It just showed all the different tools you can use to build your own animated explainers and animation. Another idea I had was a play on the fact that I call myself Lee Launches, and this was called Lee's Lunches. And this was, again, for freelancers, to encourage freelancers to take an hour out of their busy day to stop for lunch. So I set up an email campaign, a drip email campaign, and they would get an email encouraging them to listen to a podcast and do something else other than stay at their desk. And it also included a lunch recipe, something that they could make to maybe get themselves away from their desk. So some of these were monetized, some of them were not. This was an animation of an idea I had for a launch dashboard for creators, which I ended up building in Bubble. But the quickest way for me to kind of get the idea out of my head and launched on that day was to build this animation showing how it works. It was just simply an animated GIF. So again, I had the idea and I went and built the animation, and then I put it out on Twitter and maybe shared it with a few friends and family to see what they thought. Again, it was relevant to the pandemic because many people were, finding themselves remote working. And the idea of this was that you could create your own dashboard behind the different apps that you use as a freelancer. So
that's a great idea, Lee. It's a bit like Yep from Kieran's building now, but this was more focused on real builds.
Yes, it was built. So I ended up building the actual app, but it was like, say if you were using different apps in your day to day and you wanted to share them with a fellow freelancer, this would let you do that. And it was like a stack that you could share with the different tools that were in your stack. It actually ended up leading to me meeting my co-founder Edmund, who I launched LaunchDash with. It was kind of like an early version of that.
Yeah.
And out of that idea, Edmund and I came up with something else, which was LaunchDash, which we also built in Bubble. Again, this was my launch log, so you can see. I don't know if you can see that on your screen, but this was all the different ideas. These were all the different days. So each day I would create a day and actually log it and say what I did. And I had like a blog with a link to the tweet for that particular launch. I don't know if you've seen this video. This is a kind of shows the concept of what I was trying to do. I'll present this so you can watch it. The idea of building a minimum viable product of my idea. And what I later learned was called prototyping. So not prototyping, but prototyping, the idea that you get your idea in front of people who might need it fast in a minimum kind of viable way so that it's presentable to them, but there may be some manual things on your part to make it kind of work, to make it presentable to them. So I'll play the video. So I really like the way that he, I like the way that he drinks the coffee before he gives it, he passes it through. But the idea being that, you know, you can make it look, you can present your idea and it doesn't have to be all built inside. I think sometimes, I know I do, we focus on building it, making sure it's perfect, making sure the infrastructure's there. And I think what that video shows is that as long as we can make it so that the customer can do what they need to do, which is get their coffee, it doesn't matter what's behind it. We can build those things later. And so that was the kind of concept that I was trying to work towards in my daily builds, my daily launches, which ended up being 60 days of building. I didn't know it was going to be 60 days, but that's what it ended up being, 60 launches. What I'd learned through that time was that I couldn't sustain it. I think when I started it, I thought I wanted to do it every day. And by the end of it, I realized I couldn't carry on doing it. I had other commitments. Again, I had my work. What I did learn was I learned that launching fast, building your idea fast, building it in a sprint can be very fulfilling. It was for me. It removed that frustration that I described earlier. And what also came out of it for me was that I wanted to build in Bubble more. So I started building that app that I showed you the animation of, and that fueled me building in Bubble, which again led to the fact that I'm now full-time Bubble developer. Since then, I've had a chance to take part in a few other organized half-day builds and build weekends, one of which being Luis Pereira's half-day build. I've taken part in every one of these since they launched, and the idea being is that you're supposed to come up with an idea and launch it and try and generate revenue within 12 hours. One of the apps that I created was Makery, which you can see on the tweet on the right-hand side. And with that, I remember building it, going to bed thinking, what have I done? What have I wasted my time doing? And then to wake up in the morning and find a tweet like this where people are actually using what I've built and signing up for what I've built. So I think there's many treasures to get from sprints and build days, but one of them for me is the fact that you can validate your idea during that sprint, and I'm going to talk a bit more about that in a minute, and also get to build alongside other people and see them validating their ideas, see what other ideas other people are tapping into. More recently, I took part in the 100 Days of No Code Build weekend back in April. And I remember this one particularly because I woke up with many, many doubts. I knew I was committed to the build. And I remember just many, many doubts. I remember going in the community and different people just encouraging me. And I remember Max particularly just encouraging me just to give it a go, just to try and launch what I could. And I ended up building a web app for my newsletter my Bubble Job newsletter that I'd launched in a previous sprint. And I just remembered that sense of encouragement, and I think the thing was, if I hadn't have taken part with other people and I hadn't done it on that weekend, I probably would have given up. I think the great thing about build weekends is because you're with other people, you're less likely to give up. Again, why I love build sprints, you get to find out if other people like your idea. You find out if you like your idea. So sometimes other people might like your idea, but you might find that you don't really have passion for it. You get to find out very quickly. You know, if we think of many startups, failed startups, they maybe take years to find out that they failed or that there's no demand for them. With sprints, I think you get to find out if there's legs in your idea very quickly, again, from your own passion for the project and other people's passion for what you're building. You get to learn new skills in doing, you know, there's project management, there's different aspects to the build that you get to do. You get to market, you're marketing, you're building in public. They're all new skills. You're having to write copy, all of these kind of things. And then the other thing is you get to meet amazing makers. I mean, I've met some amazing friends just through build weekends and build sprints. So just want to talk a bit about, so I've got 5 things for you to prepare for your own build weekend. And then maybe we can have a bit of a Q&A or questions, or if anyone wants help with preparing for their own upcoming build weekends, then happy to help. I know Harold will be able to help as well, having recently taken a part in a couple of, and one, I know Harold, you recently won a build weekend, so I'm sure you'll be ready to chip in.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I'm still surprised about that, to be honest, but happy to think along. Yeah. Yeah.
So I think the first thing to do, and I know this was covered by Kieran in the first session, but I just want to touch on it quickly, is prepare to validate. And I think, as I said, doing a build weekend or a sprint is part of the validation, but I think we can also do some validating before the weekend. And one of the things I like to do is to do a Twitter poll. So say if I've got 2 ideas and I can't figure out, I will tweet a quick Twitter poll and send it to a few friends, send it to a few people or tag a few people who I think might be interested. And a good example of this was the Bubble Jobs newsletter, which I launched recently on the half-day build. I was torn between that and building Canva templates. And what came out of it was that doing that poll showed me that I should build a Bubble Job newsletter, because as you can see from the poll, and it was quite even on the, I think I posted this 2 days before or a few days before. And it was interesting to see that, you know, the votes change. I think at one point, the Canva templates was ahead. And I think I might have deliberately swayed it a bit because I started sending it to Bubble developers that I knew, asking them to vote. But that was okay, because that, again, helped validate and give me encouragement that this is what I should build. And you can see there was 23 votes in total. And this is what I ended up building. I ended up building the Workflows Bubble Creator Job newsletter. It's built in Review. I think I built it in less than 12 hours. And I'm going to tell you a bit about that now, because I actually wanted to build it in Bubble. And this is where we go into the second point, which is how to prepare your stack, how to prepare which tools you'll use. For me, I think there's a balance between the tools that you're comfortable in, the tools you know how to use, but also the tool that is most feasible. So for me, I wanted to build my Bubble Jobs newsletter in Bubble, but I knew that if I had, I would have slowed down the process of people signing up to the newsletter, and I would have got too bogged down with the building of it. Again, going back to the video of the guy creating the coffee and tasting the coffee, I knew that if I'd have gone through the building process, I wouldn't have got it into the hands of the people who said they wanted a Bubble Jobs newsletter, who wanted me to send them Bubble Jobs every week. So I decided to build it in Get Review, which plugs into Twitter, and made it quick and easy for people to sign up and become members. So the next thing I think is important to prepare for a build weekend is to prepare your time. I know the build weekend is, I think it starts on a Friday, does it, Harold, and finishes on a Sunday?
Yes, yeah. It starts at 5 p.m. your own time, and it takes until 5 p.m. on Sunday, 5 p.m. your own time. So 48 hours to build for everyone, and regarding your time zone.
Yeah. So I think with that, I think it's important during that time to look at what other commitments you might have. You know, do you have friends you've got to meet, family, loved ones you've got to look after? I think, you know, to try and be realistic about that time, and try and at the same time block off the time that you've got to build. So you might not have the whole 48 hours. You might only have, say, 24 hours or even 12 hours. I know the last half day build weekend, I couldn't do the Sunday. So I broke my time down to just the Friday and the Saturday. But equally, be ready with your time to have fun, because you know it's your time. It's your time to launch your ideas, to really get that idea that you've been waiting to build off the ground. The next thing I think you can prepare, and I like to prepare, is your scope. As a freelancer, as a, you know, having done web development, one thing I'll often do, and anyone who's worked in any kind of building or construction or that kind of thing, is you will make a scope for your project, especially if you're working with clients. And I think in the same way, it's important for our builds, our own builds, to kind of scope out our project. You know, what do we need to do? And what I like to do is do a bullet point list, just a simple bullet point list, you know, with things like, I need to create the app, sign up for the app. I need to build the database. I might need to create a landing page. I might need to create a payment page if I'm going to be accepting payments. I might need to write copy. You may even have branding or logo if you want to create that. Obviously, with things like logo and branding, just be aware that those are things that could eat up into build time. I know they do for me. And so it's important to have things in your scope that you won't do. So maybe you'll say, I'm not going to build a logo this time. I'll save that for later after I've validated the idea, or I'll do the branding later, you know, that kind of thing. This is an example of what I normally do on a build day. So I'll create a to-do list, my checklist, and I'll tweet it out. And as I go through the day, I'll just update that as I hit each kind of scope item, like you would in any project. And then finally, the last thing you can do is to prepare in advance. So these are some of the things that you could do before the day. You could do these on the day. So you could decide on the name. If you're going to have a domain name, you could buy the domain name ahead of time. You could create the app page. For example, when I'm building in Bubble, I might go and build the app page so that it's ready and set up bubble responsive, that kind of thing. If you can have payments, again, you could go and create your Stripe payment page or your Gumroad payment page before the day just so that it's ready. I'm aware that you may not have time, so again, it's fine to leave those to the build days. I have done all of these on the build day, but anything that will allow you just to focus on the building and the and if you can do it ahead of time. With the Workflows Bubble Jobs newsletter, which has probably been my most successful build to date, the one that I said I built in Get Review, I wanted to come up with a name before the day. So my wife and I went for a walk. We went for a walk with the dog around the block. And my wife said, okay, let's each come up with 3 ideas. And by the time we get home, you have to pick one. And that's the one you're going to use. And the name was the Workflows, which I think my wife came up with, which is relevant to, building in Bubble, no code development, that kind of thing. And then when I launched on the day, other people gave me good feedback that they thought it was quite a good name. So just a bonus thing to prepare, and then we can chat more about your builds. I think another thing to prepare for is that you will carry on building after the build weekend. And I think what that allows you to do is to think that you don't have to do it all in the build weekend. So if your idea is validated, if other people do tell you they want it, if you do get a passion for it, then after the build weekend, you can carry on building. I think, Harold, you're doing that with what you built on your most recent sprint. You're continuing to build your product.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I think the build weekend is just the beginning. At least if you like what you've built, then it starts, right? Because then you want some customers, etc.
Yeah.
So then it starts, and it's like a great example. The Workflows you told me is now in its 17th week already.
Yes. Yeah.
So it started in 1.5 day, and now you have run already so many newsletters and updates. That's great.
Yeah.
So it's just to begin, but I focused for myself. It was just for the fun, and if at any chance there would come out some project I could work on, then I would go on, and otherwise it's just to learn and to practice, which is also fine for such a weekend.
Yeah, and I mean, one of the things I wanted to do with the Bubble Jobs newsletter was get a sponsor, and I wasn't able to do that in that weekend. And so since then, I've been emailing sponsors and adding affiliate links and that kind of thing. But again, I wasn't able to do that on the day. So yeah, that's the 5 things you can do: validate, choose your stack, set up your time, scope your build, and set some things up like the domain name, payment page, that kind of thing. And happy to go into some questions, maybe talk about other people's projects and talk about what you might be thinking about building, and would love to help you prepare for that or think about how you could build your idea. I'll stop sharing my screen.
Yeah, thanks, Lee. That looked good, and I think that are some great advices. I'm curious as well. I'm not sure, Deepika, for example, do you already have an idea in mind for your build weekend?
No, not yet. Means I have a lot of ideas in my Notion, but I've not yet thought which idea will I take with for my build weekend.
All right. Maybe someone else already. Rachel, Jacob. I know you are also participating. Nicholas, Ravish.
Yeah, hi Lee.
Hi Ravish. Yeah, good to see you.
So my question basically revolves around one of the issues that I've always find myself in is we always say that MVP is basically we need to make something which is a little bit presentable to the user so that they can, use it and see if it is useful for them.
Yeah.
But that is one of the parts where I've found difficulty in is that, for example, I started learning Bubble, and Bubble is like, a blank page. And for me, I spend a lot of time thinking how the page is going to look like. There are
Yeah.
other
Yeah.
tools, like, I also use Softer, I used Glide.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then still, I think for me, what comes naturally is uh, the infrastructure at the back, but
Yes.
I
Yeah.
always, fumble on how to put it, how to create a good user experience or a beautiful user experience, so to
Yeah.
say.
Yeah.
So any tips
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
on
Sure.
that?
Yeah. Definitely. So like you, I mean, even though I got design background the same, I could get bogged down in the design, the interface. Um, there's what I've done more recently was like use like some interface templates. So for example, you've got AirDev's Canvas, which um, can be a bit of a learning curve with that. So maybe not so good for Build Weekend if you've not used it before. Then there's Frames by Build Camp, which has just been launched, which will allow you to just drag and drop, a user interface that's relevant to what you wanted to build, a bit like you would do in Softer or one of those other tools. And then there's also Atomic Fusion, which is a cool little Chrome extension. And again, there's some nice templates in there. And I actually used one of them for my Bubble Jobs newsletter. So basically, I just dragged the template and then I just changed the bits and then just set up the back end. So yeah, I would encourage you to use those kind of things as a to get that part of the job done faster, if that
Mm.
helps, Ravish.
Yeah, thank you. That I'll surely check out these. Thanks, Lee.
Yeah, no worries. No worries. I think Pablo.
We, yeah,
Hey, Pablo.
hey, great to see you. It's been a while.
Yeah, it's been a while.
Yeah, so just wanted to ask you, going back to the design inquiry, have you found yourself creating wireframes in advance for your projects, or did you just let it flow in the moment? Which is, for me at least, I like to have a very basic wireframe, at least something in Miro with very, very basic
Yeah.
page layout. But is it cheating if you do wireframes in advance, or how do you feel about it?
No, I think that's a good example of something to do ahead of time, especially if, like me, you're already kind of working out what you're going to do ahead of time. And like Ravish was saying, it sounded like Ravish kind of knows what he wants to build. I think wireframes are a good thing to do. I think if you've got time, definitely. I think, and that is not cheating. No, and just like using a template is not cheating. Using a logo from Canva is not
Yeah.
cheating. Using a design from Canva or a branding template, not cheating. It's going to get you there faster. These are things you could change in the future. The main thing is to, as Ravish was saying, to get it so that people can use it, I think.
Yeah, and I think the focus should be, obviously building it's important, but I think the focus should be in trying to communicate what you've built in the clearest way possible, right? So you can understand or know if people actually get what your product does, or what your idea is, basically. So
Yes.
I think I will spend more dedication on writing the copy of the website or the page, just to make sure that people are actually understanding my proposal, my product, right? So yeah.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. I think those are the key things, like the saying what it is that you're offering in clear copy. I'm not a copywriter, but I do try to spend some time getting that copy right, especially the catch, the catch headline.
Because even if you don't build certain features, right? Like, because there's a limit to what you can achieve in a weekend or on a half day, right? But even saying, yes, I'm launching this with this spec, right? But then saying, I would like to also develop these XYZ features in the future, right? And I think that's important because that tells you if these features resonate with the people you're sharing it with.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, I think even if exactly that. Even if you're not going to do it then, I think to say this is what you're planning to do, but this is what you've got now. I kind of did that with the Bubble Jobs newsletter, where I said I was going to feature creators. So I put jobs out on the Bubble Jobs newsletter, but I didn't get round to kind of featuring creators till like the second or third issue. But I said it was coming. Yeah.
Cool. Yeah. Cool.
Thanks, Pablo.
Yeah. Eventually, the product you build is, of course, you can already validate in advance. Like, hey, people, are you from the target audience? Are you interested in this idea? And then the second step you're doing is the MVP or the prototype you're building during the weekend. That's the second step of validation. Because if people like that and hopefully sign up or even pay already for it, then you're onto something. Of course it's fun, like you already said, to follow everyone else sharing their updates. Do you dedicate some time to also engage with the others during the weekend? I do like to do that, and I like the fact that the idea that we're in different time zones, because when you switch on, you've got people ahead of you in time, and then when you finish, you're finished, but other people are still going, so you can look at them see what they're doing as well. I really like that part of the build weekends, and seeing what others are building. And I try to, obviously you've got to do it in a way that you don't get distracted with your own build, but I do like kind of dipping in and seeing what other people are sharing on Twitter or on Slack with their builds, and sharing their progress, and many times sharing ideas that I'd never thought of and would never think of. It's amazing the things that people come up with, and it's amazing the things that people build in a time, but having said that, I don't think you have to feel you've got to be the most amazing builder. That doesn't matter. The main thing is to build as much as you can to get people to take action on your offer in whatever way that may be, even if it's just a sign up. Again, you could use something like Yep to do that. I know Kieran talked about that. You could build a Yep page on your build weekend. Why not? You could write out all your copy, create your offer, and put that out to further validate your idea. I know Mark Bowley's offering his design UI services on a Yep page. That could be what you build in. Yeah, especially now Yep is also offering custom domains. You could just run it as your own landing page. Yeah, it's great. Yeah, that's always the question, right? How broad or how narrow do you scope the project? Because when you are starting, you can go wild about the idea, the features. So it's just a challenge to struggle to scope it as narrow as possible. What's the most important aspect when you are looking at the scope? What's the most important aspect you are considering to decide what to build and what not to build?
I think not to not to try and do things that you don't know how to do, maybe, is one of the things, and maybe to get the core of what the product is. So if you are building in something like Bubble, to build the front page and, you know, the most important data types, those kind of things, to focus on that. I think I told you this previously, Harold. I know in a previous build, I considered learning Bubble New Responsive during part of the sprint, and I had to give myself a talking to and say, you can't do that. You're gonna end up not learning the new responsive, and you won't launch.
Yeah. I think that's a great one, to focus on the result, that you want to launch something, a minimal product, and not as an at the ideal state, or not too advanced. The goal is to launch at least something. So the easiest way to reach that is to scope it as narrow as possible. And when that's finished and you have time left, you can always expand. Like, hey, now I have some time left to polish design or add another feature. Is that how you approach it? Is it?
Yeah, to do the core, and then to add on the other things that you wanted to build later. Again, so that you can at least show, like Pablo was saying, something, and Ravish was saying, something that people can go, okay, that's what I need, and that's what I want. You know, that fulfills my pain. I think we just, to get to that point, to get some further validation, and then the other things, the other features, the kind of icing on the cake can come later. And maybe sometimes, I mean, for me, sometimes that's been the payment page. You know, sometimes I haven't got to build the payment page. I've done everything else, but the payment page has had to wait for next week or next month, whenever I might next have time.
Yeah. So, Jacob, if you're there, do you already have an idea in mind, or something you want to share that we can think along with you about the build weekend?
No, I don't really have any idea either. I'm just I need to get more like organizing my ideas of things that I think that I can do for a small project. The things that I'm always thinking about are like quite big projects, so I don't even know how to break it down into something that's really a truly minimum viable.
It could be fun to discuss. If there's a broad topic, then maybe Lee has some ideas how you can bring it back to a small scope.
Yeah.
Is there any particular topic you are interested in?
No, I mean, it's the problem is like all the things that I usually think about are like internal business tools. So it's just like, it's got to connect, 15 things to make it work.
Yeah.
So, so yeah, making that minimum viable thing is not so easy, I think. It's just, try to think of one thing that's annoying and try to make a little feature out of that, only that one thing.
Yeah. What's the biggest pain point? What's the most annoying process in your business that you was most annoying for you, that you bought it the most last week or something, and then that could be a thing to solve. Yeah. Of what are you looking up to most to do in the next week? What's the biggest pain point? Yeah. Rachel, do you already have something particular in mind, or something you are wondering about for the build weekend?
I think it's going to be this job board that I've been talking about, Harold. So I want to build a job board, but for like flexible remote jobs that are friendly for working parents, and try and pull them together somewhere. And I was looking at like software and Airtable, but I've got no idea about scoping it out. So you made some really, really interesting points there, Lee. Lots of food for thought about actually thinking about the steps to get from like 0 to some first version of that.
Yeah.
And how long?
Do you have the jobs already that you want to feature?
Yeah, I've got a few, because I've got a little co-working space for parents locally, and we team up with some people that specialize in that stuff. So they put jobs out every week. So I can, my goal is to start pulling those jobs in initially, even though it's a small list. It's only for local people at first. So the data will be like quite small, but it'll be just kind of getting something minimum and functional.
Yeah, I wouldn't worry about the number of the list. I will focus more on maybe the categories of jobs, like what types of jobs are these, and since all of these are remote, even with remote roles, it will be helpful, for instance, to specify preferred time zones, for instance, because sometimes it's really hard. I've been working in projects with people from Australia, and that was a big challenge. So So, and I'm in Peru, right? So they're like 15 hours ahead. So yeah, that's crazy. So I will think, what are those, what's that search experience that you want to provide? And that's mainly based on tags or time zones, or like salary ranges, if that's data that you can get access to. And then connecting that to your front end on software, if you do so, should feel pretty straightforward. Then you have to make it really nice. But I think that's an interesting idea to develop on Build Weekend.
Yeah. Job boards. Job boards, I think, are a really good thing to build, especially when people are saying they want the jobs that you're able to find or provide. Again, that's what happened with my bubble jobs board. It was the fact that I was searching for these jobs, and I couldn't use all those jobs. So I said to people, do you want some of these jobs? And people were saying yes. And I think if you can maybe ask a few people, if you've already got people saying they want the jobs that you're able to provide or find, again, just find the quickest way to get them to them, just to start with, and building the job board could come later. Again, with mine, I built the newsletter first and got people to subscribe just so that I could keep in touch with them. And then I built the actual job board later, once there was a bit more kind of traction and proof that people wanted me to send them those jobs.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Yeah, that's really helpful. Thank you, Lee. And that's a really good idea to validate it that way. Yeah,
sure.
Thinking of like a job board is a really narrow scope. Could also be just one job offer, right? Just one vacancy.
Yeah.
They are looking and then sharing it in all kind of communities around until that's completed, is that fulfilled, and then when that's gone, then add another one. So it don't have to be a whole directory at first. You can just, if you only have one, you can already share it to get to the people that are looking for jobs like that, and perhaps make them subscribe, so you know that they're really interested. And if they're interested, then perhaps find the other one, and if that gets traffic, then build it into a directory. Small step to start with.
Yeah, great points. Thank you both.
Yeah, it's great. And Lee, of course, considering time, we are also curious about your ideas, what's going on in your head for the Build Weekend. Do you already have something in mind to put on a Twitter poll, or just a poll in this group here?
Maybe
sure.
you should ask. He's going to ask his wife as well.
Yeah,
brainstorming.
Yeah, because she's got the best ideas.
Yeah,
for sure. Yeah, I enjoy bouncing things with, checking things with my wife. It's a good process. It's also always good to check with other people, I think, because otherwise it just stays in your own head. But I'm thinking of tools relevant to what I've done previously. So with the bubble jobs, things for bubble developers. One of the ideas that has been floating around in my head is some kind of time tracking tool. So thinking about that, I mean, when where I'm working, it's flexi time. So I always struggle to know if I've worked my hours or worked over my hours. So I was thinking some kind of tool to put in what time I start, and it would tell me what time I finish, that kind of thing. I've also been thinking about some kind of tool, but I've not quite shaped it out yet in my head for scoping projects out. Again, scoping a project's quite interesting to me, you know, the process that we go through. So trying to think of some way to help other freelancers, other builders scope out their projects, because that's often an issue, especially in freelancing, is defining a scope if you're going to build for somebody else. So yeah, thinking about that. I think those are the two. Oh, the other idea I've been toying with is some kind of service, some kind of bubble service, a bit like Ravish was saying, where you build in Bubble the front end for people. So they give you their Figma designs, and you do the front end build and give it to them. So for someone like Ravish, I could build the front end, and then he could go and just focus on the back end. That came out of my own recent experience of finding that I was doing both, and sometimes wishing I had someone just to build the front end for me. Again, like Ravish was describing. So yeah, those are three ideas I'm wondering about for the upcoming build weekend.
Those sound interesting. I'm actually working on a scoping tool for Milan Labs. Yeah, but I'm building like a scoping tool so they can onboard clients and on scale, and so they can hand over the project spec to developers so they can build it. So I'm happy to chat like further if you want around that idea and show you what I got. But yeah.
Cool. Thanks. Yeah, thanks, Pablo. That would be good. Yeah, that would be good.
Yeah, I was wondering, because you've been in quite some build weekends and the like, do you have any examples of people that work together on a project?
Oh yes, yeah. And I've wondered about doing it myself as well. I see sometimes you get people who are builders, and you get people who are ideas people, and those kind of, you know, combinations work quite well. I think sometimes people are either one or the other, and I think those are good. I've seen some good collaborations come out of those, some good projects, and often people will go on, say, in the Slack or something beforehand, or the Discord, whatever it might be, and say, I want to build, but I've got no idea I want to build, or the flip side, I've got an idea, but I don't know how to build it. I think yeah, if we can do that again in the 100 days of no code, you know, if there's people who are either of those camps, team up for sure.
Yeah, interesting. Yeah, I'm going to
in our case, in Microsoft, when we have certain kind of hackathons, so we have a website where, you know, you post your project, and people who do have ideas post their project, and people who, you know, don't have ideas and are good at building stuff like the back end or the front ends, they basically go ahead and join those projects. And, you know, you can tag that you're looking for developers or designers and things like that. So yeah, I think we can try doing something like that.
Yeah, it's definitely it's a win-win, because I think otherwise, you know, the thing again won't get built. I think Maxwell, who's in 100 Days of No Code, so not Max but other Max, he teamed up with a developer for an idea that he built on one of the build weekends, and what they built was it was a Twitter tool, and it was pretty substantial what they ended up building, again because they teamed up.
Right. Oh yeah, I'm gonna look into that. Yeah, great. Yeah, well, I'm being mindful of everyone's time. The hour is already past, so yeah, it was a pleasure. Thanks for sharing all your ideas and all your tips and your experience, Lee. I hope it was.
Thanks, everyone. Thanks for
I
having me share. Appreciate
think
it.
I think it was
Night,
great.
everyone. Good morning, some of you.
Yeah, it's for you. Yeah, there. Yeah, it was great. Thanks, even late in the evening or in the middle of the night that you are joining, Jacob. So that's awesome. Thanks for sharing. Next week on Wednesday we have one more warm-up session left. It's with Kevin Chung, Built in Public guy, well known on Twitter. He will share how you can build in public, which can also help you to get the first traffic to your project. So I think that's a great one to warm up. And then in the weekend after that, there's finally our build weekend. I hope everyone is joining. I'm even trying to encourage my team members, Pablo and Max, also at a project. So yeah, he can't back out now. So that would be fun. I'm looking forward for it. And yeah, thanks again, Lee. It was a pleasure. So
yeah, thanks everyone. Thanks. Really enjoyed
Thank
it.
you, Lee.
see you all
Bye.
next time. Bye-bye.
Bye.